If the British Empire and its Commonwealth last for 1,000 years, men will still say this was their finest hour.
We stand for Queen,
country, and video games. BRB UK.
Worse teeth,
better accents. Hello indeed. Ahoy, hoy, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to episode 300-5, aka 295. I'm Dan. Tim can't shut up. This is BRB
I can never
UK.
shut up. Never.
Tim's by himself today. This worries me that he's not going to have because quite, you know.
Naked podcasting time.
Tim, I'm not going to lie. Quite a lot of times when we're recording, me and Coleman are having chats on Discord, trying to with me asking him to flick you because you've been going on about for 5 hours about a menu option. So I don't quite know what we're going to do today. So yeah, try control yourself. Control yourself, Tim.
Never going to happen, Dan. It's going to be the first 8-hour podcast. Here we go.
No, for you maybe. I'm buggering off after an hour, but it's all right. Shine a light. It's not quite night, but he writes on our site. It's Kevin White. Hello.
Hello. I've got good news for you. In the as well as moving Tim over to a separate VR feed, we're also starting up the user interaction menu podcast very soon.
Are you? Fantastic.
Yay!
So is that part of our kind of, helping people get a good night's sleep thing? That, it's like, hey, people, you're not having enough sleep. It's making you grumpy and fat. Here's Tim talking about menu options.
Bedtime stories with Tim.
Look, people said we need to be more inclusive, so I figure, for the 5 people that really want to know about Tim's user experience and user interface ideals, then this is the way to do it.
Tim, I've got a question.
You do?
Yeah, how does Alex stay conscious?
Well, she doesn't always. So,
right. I'm stopping this conversation now because I can already feel that it could go in a very...
It got off to a wrong start and it could go worse. We got a bit of news to tuck into because apparently no one can keep things tightly unleaked till E3, so let's go.
So there we go. So chaps, a quick roll call. Do you consider yourself a slightly overweight middle-aged I do.
Mm-hmm.
There's new Pokemons. I turned on my Switch the other day. I turned on my Switch, and there was some square Pokemons.
Yes.
It's like Pikachu and Steve from Minecraft buggered each other into senselessness and had a baby. And I don't understand what's going on.
Everything's going Minecraft because the kids love some Minecraft, Dan. That's basically what's happening there.
Why? But I thought they loved the Pokemon.
They also love the Pokemons. But, right, Pokemon Pocket Monster, Dan. That's where it's coming from. Pocket
Right, is that at all related to your elephant impression that you like to do that half of it involves turning your pockets
Only
inside out?
tangentially, but
right,
yes.
Okay, good.
But right, yeah, for anyone that doesn't know, there wasn't just one Pokemon game announced this week. There was a kind of Pokemon conference thing, a whole kind of announcement presser type thing in Japan.
That sounds like a whole lot of not giving a about something to me. Kev, what do you think?
I'm with you.
But yeah, well, not one, not two, but 4 Pokemon games announced at this thing, basically. First one you alluded to is Pokemon Quest, which they were like, right, and it's out now. And that's already available on Switch. As you say, it's kind of the blocky graphical style. It looks like 3 Pokemons like walking around in a kind of dungeon crawling party type thing. So not quite your traditional Pokemon game.
Oh wait, is it like Pokemon Mystery Dungeon then on the 3DS?
From what I understand, possibly similar, but its own thing. But yeah, it's like 3 Pokemon in a party wandering around together. They have different powers on cooldowns and stuff like that.
100 Pokemon get parachuted onto an island. Right, Kev. So this is...
Gotta catch them all. As I said, this one's out now. Now, it's labelled as the rather worryingly free to start.
It's also free to stop, you'll be pleased to know. So, both.
Yeah, unfortunately. But exactly where it encourages you to spend money is a mystery to me at the moment. That's one thing that I don't exactly know. Whether it's you get to a certain point and it tries to get you to spend money, or whether it just encourages you to spend money throughout in microtransactions. I think the second one of those is the more likely scenario from what I've seen of the game.
I think I found it. Right, so it's an action RPG.
Yep.
Build a team of Pokemon. You run around and it up.
Yes.
As these cuboidal Pokemons.
Yep.
You got to train them in between the fights. and they get XP. You can speed that up by spending cash money, I'm assuming.
Yep.
And as you level up, you get more numbers that get bigger.
That didn't exactly add more details, Dan, but maybe we'll come back to that. I'm sure we'll all get a chance to play it this week, basically, but that only just came out last night, and I haven't had a chance to play it yet.
On a surface level, you just described this like Diablo.
Yeah.
And that made me way more interested.
Dude, no, Kev, you're going to the bad place, Kevin. Kevin, you're going to the bad place. Kevin, back in the room, Kev.
The other two they announced were possibly a bit more interesting. There are two games coming to Switch. They're coming out November 16th, 2018.
God, this Switch thing's doing all right for itself, isn't it?
It's doing okay. But yeah, these were two Pokemon games called Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Pokemon Let's Go Eevee. And basically, they are two games that interact and kind of, you can swap Pokemons between the Pokemon Go app. So it goes with that. Apparently they're set in the original areas of Kanto, which again is a bit beyond my Pokemon knowledge, basically, but that's where, original games were set, basically.
Tim, can I just say, for someone who professes to know about Pokemon, a worrying amount.
Well, I did my research for the show, Dan.
I was going to say, he knows nothing about it, but he doesn't have to go on about it, does he?
Yeah.
But then, basically you can transfer Pokemon captured in the different games between the two different Pokemon. It also plays a little bit differently to a traditional Pokemon game in the fact that you don't kind of have battles with wild Pokemon, but you capture them in a similar way that you do in Pokemon Go. This could be seen in the kind of trailer that they put up, being done with a single Joy-Con, which can then be played in co-op with you playing with a Joy-Con each. But then they also had a separate Pokeball Plus controller where you could actually throw the kind of, or mimic throwing the Pokeball at them.
I tell you what, the number of people who are actually going to lob that thing and brain someone in real life. Sorry!
I hate everything about this entire game premise, but I know that also means it's going to be successful.
Yeah, so do a lot of people on the internet that are hardcore Pokemon fans, but I can see this being massively successful with how successful Pokemon Go was. It also, graphically looks quite impressive, just on the Switch version and how that kind of operates. You don't just have, random battles as you're wandering around. You can actually see the Pokemon, in the long grass while you're wandering around, and then walk up to them, and then you go into the kind of, instead of having a battle, you just go in to try and capture them, but then you can then battle with the captured Pokemon that you have, basically.
So it's like if Nintendo made a dogging simulator.
Not really at all, but if that helps you like it more, then yes.
Yeah, but Kev, I think it sounds like it. What do you think, mate?
Yes, a dogging simulator.
Pokemon dogging simulator coming.
I have a question.
Yep.
So is there not actually any Pokemon battling in this? It's just literally the Pokemon Go thing?
If you listen to me as I was saying things, which I know not everyone does.
You got to bear in mind, Tim, I phase in and out when you speak.
But I literally just said before you asked that question and before Dan interrupted me with his dogging I literally just said that there are no Pokemon there are no battles with wild Pokemon. There are still Pokemon battles in the game that you do with the Pokemon that you have captured.
So is there several Pokemon facing off against one another at the same time?
I don't know on that one. I only saw
a gangbang, if you will.
I only saw one-on-one Pokemon battles. But coming back to the Pokeball Plus thing, it's
a gangbang
available as a separate controller. It lights up. No, you're going to like this one, Dan. It lights up.
Pokeball.
It vibrates.
Pokeball gag.
No. Even better. It lights up. It vibrates. I thought you would have gone with the vibrates more than anything else.
No,
and it makes
don't
sounds.
Get you on about, mate.
No. Pokemon Love Beads coming to a store near you.
God, people are going to buy that Pokeball controller as well, aren't they?
Yeah, they are.
But then you can mimic throwing that, as I said, and but then you can also take that out and about with you separate to your Switch, and it will have some interactions and some rewards for doing a certain amount of steps with it or taking it around.
That's if you want to go full bell end in how you look. you can run around with that.
All good. But then on top of that, they also
Jesus, are we not done with this yet?
Probably to appease the main fans of the Pokemon series, they also announced at the same time that a full Pokemon game will be coming to the Switch in 2019. They didn't really give many details on that.
Good. I'm glad they're accommodating for the hardcore fans here. That's what we wanted to know out of Nintendo.
Yeah, the previous 4 games obviously didn't much.
Well, yeah, as I said, they appeal more to a casual audience and not not strictly in the same mold as a Pokemon game, but they announced there will be a game like that, and probably, even though they didn't say this, I don't think they spelled this out, there will probably be 2 games in that, because that's how they normally do them these days. So there'll probably be 2 games in that series coming out in 2019. They didn't really specify any details or like what's happening with that, but I think that was literally an olive branch to appease any fans that might have been annoyed by the announcements that they made. But that didn't do much to appease most fans of the announcements they made. So, hey.
It is funny that, like, for years and years and years and years, ever since the days of the N64, Pokemon fans have been crying out for, can I just have a Pokemon game on my goddamn console instead of a handheld, mate? And then they finally announced something. There's this stupid Pokemon Go thing. Like, yeah, the least they could do is say, oh, and by the way, it's coming to consoles as well.
Yeah, but Kev, that's only because their current console is also a handheld. Let's not forget that.
Yes, true.
So technically, they haven't changed their strategy at all. It's just the platform is different.
You know, I can't find a hole in your logic.
Yeah, there we go.
But it's look, you get the best of both worlds. You can play it in both environments. But I think it kind of made sense that they made.
Are you trying to sell me this, Tim?
No, not really.
You can play it's the best of both worlds. You can play in any environment you are in. If you're in a bush,
I just need to say. Obviously, like, no one other than the 3 of us can see this agenda, but in the agenda, Tim's read new full Pokemon game due 2019. Sparse details, but seems like next game in the series.
Next games in the series. Well, they didn't actually spell that out, but as in a mainline game, and that's why I put full in inverted commas. But hey.
Okay, are we done? Can we talk about grown-up games now, please?
No,
I want to talk more about Pokemon. Michael Clefairy's.
I will end you, Kevin.
Out of the level, mate.
I will end you.
All right.
Right, Fallout.
Yes.
So we've had Fallout 1, Fallout 2, Fallout 3, Fallout New Vegas, Fallout 4.
Yeah.
Then clearly I've slipped into a coma for a couple of years because we're now at Fallout 76.
It's like you've been asleep in a vault for a number of years.
Could have been. Who knows? I don't know. So anyway, so Fallout 76 has been teased, or a teaser trailer is indeed out, which shows a grand total of, a television playing a thing, inside of a vault in celebratory mood or after a party, and they're clearly celebrating something called Reclamation Day, and the person who I'm assuming is the President of the United States of Thingamabob is talking about, we've been locked underground, now it's time to reclaim what's ours. So I think this is all about humanity emerging once again from the vaults, being more evil to each other than they ever were to the denizens of the Fallout universe in previous incarnations of the game. But there is going to be a lot more details at E3, which is awesome. Kevin, you've played a lot of Fallout, haven't you?
Yes, although I have to say, not as much Fallout 4.
Well, I think you weren't alone there, Kev. I bounced off that game so hard it wasn't funny. After loving Fallout 3, Fallout 4 just didn't do it for me, basically.
Do you know, I'd been waiting for a lot of the Bethesda Game Studios games have been coming out, and every time one came out, ever since Oblivion, I've been like, man, is this going to be the one I bounce off where I realise it's all just exactly the same thing in this broken-ass engine every single time? And I think Fallout 4 was the one where it finally hit me in the head. And I just went, nope, I can't do it.
Yeah, the one that I bought the Pip-Boy edition for. But hey, that's still sitting in the window of my local exchange shop now. But anyway.
Yeah, another investment, put inverted commas where you will there, by Tim Hibbs.
I got a fair amount of money for taking that in for trading, so hey.
Only because no one will take that off him. He's like, no, if we take this, you have to pay us money because you're using up shelf space. You can off. So anyway,
Did you hear the opposite of what I said?
Yeah, that. So Vault 76 is apparently an experimental vault.
No, it's a non-experimental vault. It's the opposite.
No, you have controls in experiments as well, Tim.
But the whole thing was that all the vaults a lot of them were messed around with, and this was the control vault that wasn't messed around with. They didn't experiment with the people in it, basically.
But because it's control and an experiment, it is in fact part of an experiment.
Well, still, okay, fine. But yeah,
science. Generally,
this is the one that was opened first out of all the vaults, and opened only 20 years after the big fallout, if you will. But the date shown in the trailer, which I think was 2102, was 5 years later than that date is supposed to be. So whether this is a game that's set 5 years after the vault originally opened, or whether something went wrong and it's 5 years later for some reason. Who knows? But yeah, that is some speculation at the moment, basically.
Yeah, but presumably, I think we're going to find out a lot more when, because Bethesda, I think, is fairly early on in the presser schedule for E3. So doubtless this is going to be a thing. Jason Schreier, he of Ultimate Internet Gaming Scuttlebutt, has described Fallout 76 as an experimental new entry. So there might be something different about it. Dunno.
Well, the rumours are that it's going to be a kind of base building thing, which is building on the worst part of the previous game, in my opinion, and seems to be an opinion held by a few other people. But that this is going to be some sort of survival type game.
In the vein of DayZ and Rust, I've heard thrown around. So craft your base and defend it against other players.
2012 called it once it's game back.
Yeah, it's good news though, because in 4 years we know that Fallout Battle Royale will be coming.
A vault with 100 people in it. Except they're not dropping it on an island, it's already under the island. That is their USP.
Yeah.
To be fair though, as Kev said, like, this is something that a lot of people seem to bounce off Fallout 4, and that's probably something they've got stats for to know if that was the case. And if we were all kind of fed up of them producing the same formula, a lot of people seem skeptical about this, but as long as they make a good game, I'd rather they kind of made a game that was a bit of, you know, a bit of a departure from the standard formula that they'd set up and done something. The other rumour is that this was apparently a multiplayer idea for Fallout 4 that they've then span out into their own game. So, anyway, it's interesting, and one that, as you say, we'll get some more details on at E3 and be interesting to see exactly how that goes.
Yeah, exactly. But I think it could be quite an interesting narrative if it's all about what happens to humanity when it's released back into the wild after all's clear, and actually, are we just as poisonous as the environment outside was? That could be quite interesting, I think. So, yeah, but no. So more details in the next couple of weeks at E3, which is worryingly just around the corner. Right. Okay, we're gonna slightly get on to now, chaps, a bit of the agenda where people clearly didn't get the memo about not being dicks. Okay.
Yes.
Just going to say it. So, First up...
I miss that memo all the time, every time it goes out.
I know. So there was a game that was due for release on the 6th of June on Steam called Active Shooter, described as a dynamic SWAT simulator. So far, so generic, I hear you thinking. But there's been a lot of... the news these days seems full of terrible, terrible, terrible atrocities happening where gunmen are running amok in schools and shooting innocent children, shooting innocent teachers. And this game is all focused around the shooters at the school, or shooting at a school. But that's bad enough and crass enough as it is already, right? But add into the mix that the game would have also contained a mode where you could be the shooter. And words cannot describe just how distasteful this is, and I am just amazed that, you know, A, Steam almost let this go under their radar, but B, that someone's out there would actually put time and effort into developing something like this, whose only purpose can be surely to offend people.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just dumbfounded. I mean, the guy who made it is a guy called Ata Berdiev, who apparently was part of, or who was rather, Revive Games and Acid, and apparently has a bit of a history of just being a bit of a rimhole, for want of a better word.
Called a troll by Steam themselves, basically.
Yeah, and...
a troll developer.
Yeah, and kind of manipulating reviews, plagiarizing copyrighted material, allegedly. I haven't had that confirmed, so I'm just going to throw in token allegedly. And, you know, has previously tried to rip off Rick and Morty on his game Pickled Rick. So this guy is just a complete dillhole of the highest degree, and God's sakes, I mean, and it just does, what a disservice this does to gaming, which, you know, in America at the very least is trying to be thrown under the bus by the NRA, because everybody knows it's not the guns you put in people's hand that kills people, it's the abstracted representations of engaging with other people in entertainment products that surely turns them into the psych.
Yeah, obviously. Yeah.
I mean, Kev, I don't get how something like this gets so far through the review process at Valve. I just don't get how someone hasn't gone, wait, what? What are you doing?
It's not the first time it's happened. Valve have been on record many a time as saying, like, virtually all of their review process involves, does it run? Does it cause any corruptions on the machine it's trying to run on? And that's fine. That's about as much checking as they do. That's why they instituted the thing where it now costs you, what is it, like 100 or 200 quid to publish a game on Steam? So that if you're making a game like this, their theory is, well, you probably wouldn't want to spend 200 quid trying to publish it because you won't make 200 quid back. But obviously that doesn't always work.
So basically the review, so their certification process is, did we have to use the fire extinguisher to put the PC that's currently bursting flames out?
It's not dissimilar to Apple's, right? I mean, you were speaking of Valve, Apple recently just cleared Valve's Steam Link app.
Oh, did they finally clear it?
No, so they initially cleared it because it went through the standard process. It worked, everything was running, that was fine. We're going to put it on the App Store. Then they pulled it because someone on the business end of Apple said, hold on a minute, we need a cut of this shit. So we can't clear that. So then they retracted it. And now, to the best of my knowledge, they haven't come back to it yet. They released a press statement saying something along the lines of, we'd be really happy to work with Valve within, you know, a certain agreement, which...
Well, the too long didn't read. We'd love to work with Valve if we could have some of their money, is basically what it was.
All right, I have a general question about that. Is the approval process that they're putting things through, is that because that they are things that can be done automatically, or whatever, that doesn't have to be done by a human and vetted by a human?
It can be. I think most of these places, Valve included, have humans who work alongside the automation. But really, all it goes as far as to say is like, oh, the automation prints out a report, and then the human looks at it and says, yep. Okay, cool. Click yes.
Because, I mean, I think Valve's problem that Jim Sterling's highlighted a lot of times is the fact that they're not, because of those checks, they're not checking if stuff is just a cynical asset flip, or is, you know, just something that's been thrown together to try and attract a few people that don't really know what they're doing to kind of spend money without being educated on what they're spending their money on.
I suspect all the human person sees is just like a JSON document. It's just got a title and a bunch of other data, and that's it.
I have a question.
And it says whether it works or not.
Kev, you just described them as human people. What non-human people do they have? And what is this disgusting alchemy that they are up to in Valve? That's what I want to know. Was it a non-human person who reviewed this? And is this why we're in this situation, Kev? Is this why? Have you just bust this wide open? You've busted it wide open, Kev. You heard it first. Valve is run by lizard people. BRB UK exclusive.
You could give Valve some credit in the fact that this game didn't make it to actual release. But they do maintain that they don't censor their games. They won't kind of censor something based on the content. The reason why this game got pulled was not the nature of the content in the game. The reason why this game got pulled is because they found out it had been made by this developer who had previously been banned and had done a load of shady things, and it's the behaviour of the developer that got this game pulled, not the content of the game.
I think the behaviour of the developer is based on the content of his previous games, though, wasn't it?
Yes, yeah, but that developer is now banned from submitting other games even through another company, and that's the basis on which they blocked the game being come to release, not the content of the actual game itself, basically.
I know that Valve have recently pulled a lot of nudity stuff from their store. I think in response to the whole trying to get on the Apple Store front. Although I question whether that's worked or not, given the recent release of Agony and its uncensored trailer on Steam's front page.
Yeah, well, apparently the deleted scenes in Agony were even worse, but still. But yeah, let's not go down that sticky wicket. But yeah, as I said, like, I don't know. It's one of those things where I kind of see how you don't want to censor things. At the same time, Valve really do need to tighten their belt a bit in terms of what content's coming out. But again, noticing Jim Sterling and kind of him being the slight gatekeeper of these things, he's also been commenting on the fact that PlayStation's getting almost as bad these days. It's just, for some reason, the bad games on PlayStation don't seem to surface as much as they do on Steam. Whether that's the case, I don't know. But I
think Sony probably has more of a oversight on that stuff than Valve does. The problem is these companies want to make money, and they're happy for anyone to publish a game. And it's only when, obviously, a lot of pushback comes that they'll go, oh, maybe we shouldn't have published that.
But there does seem to be the need for a kind of slightly high, and I don't want to make it exclusionary for, developers that are just starting out or anything, but there does seem to need to be a sort of a certain level that you need to reach to be able to publish a game on these platforms these days, and it's hard to know exactly how to police that, but still. Anyway, moving on from that into more dick moves.
Good news if you're Epic Games. Fortnite broke the concurrent users record with 3.4 million people. The previous record, of course, being held by Plunkbat, PUBG, whatever you want to call it. So what's the only rational response to that? Send them a well done card. Aren't you great? Thanks for letting us make our game using your engine, Epic. No! You sue Epic. That's what you do. Well done. Have a lawsuit. And I can kind of see where they're coming from. So the studio behind PUBG has asked a court in South Korea, which is where that company is based, to determine whether or not Epic has copied its intellectual property, because, 100 people on a bus being dropped onto an island, last man standing, etc., etc.
Problem is, that's not what they're suing them over. It's not the game design that they're going after, it's the user interface and game items.
Yeah, but that's the thing, you can't copyright a game idea or the mechanics of a game, so they're going after them for the similarities in the user interface and game items, which is just dumb, no?
Yeah.
I suspect this goes nowhere.
I really hope so, because it's a really slippery slope. And how dumb is it to do that to the people that make the engine of the game that you're basing it on? You know what I mean? Like, if I was Epic, I'd be like, right, you can't use our engine for your next game, or stop using our engine now.
No, Epic, because you can use Unreal to develop stuff for free in a non-commercial context, but Epic trousers a certain percentage of every sale of PUBG because it uses the Unreal Engine. So, Epic, they're making money over. They've got it great. They're making money off of Fortnite, and they're making money off of PUBG. So, yeah, it's a bit of an odd move, not going to lie. But, I suppose it's one of those things where you've got to be seen to protect your intellectual property, otherwise people are going to run away with it. But I would say the thing that is least similar between these two particular titles is the UI.
Well, yeah, definitely the look of the game, at least.
Yeah, the UI in Fortnite is nowhere near that. Nowhere similar to that of Plunkbat. So
you can't exactly go, well, they've got guns in their game, so we've got guns in our game, so they can't have guns in their game. Like, it's just, where does that end? And it's not exactly like PUBG. It had a semi-original idea that it ripped off from a Japanese movie, basically.
Korean movie, I think you'll find.
Was based on... Korean movie. And had based, all those things and had made that as a game previously on, wasn't it a mod to an existing game? Armour, basically?
Yeah, it was Armour 3. It was a mod to Armour 3.
It's like, where do you get off in saying that, you've stood on the shoulders of other people and now you're accusing someone else of standing on your shoulders and suing them for doing so? It's just like, what are you doing?
I saw a really good flowchart on Twitter that someone made of, each of these two games and what their influences were and where they got directly ripped from, and it all goes back to Operation Flashpoint at the start.
Oh, nice.
But yeah, I don't know. It baffles me. This is one of those things where it just seems like they're shooting themselves in the foot just for the sake of sour grapes, and just we're not number one anymore. Well, let's go after the people that are number one. It's just like, if I was a player that was playing both of these games now, I would stop playing PUBG this minute because of this lawsuit, because they're just idiots, and I wouldn't like, how they were representing themselves in the wider world. Anyway, that's just my fucking opinion on it. So,
I would say the vast majority of people who regularly play Pongbat probably don't view the same things. They just go, "Oh, shoot the mans!"
Well, I'd say the problem is that a lot of them have probably already moved across to Fortnite as it is. Even at its height, PUBG wasn't getting like footballers doing the celebrations from PUBG when they scored a goal and stuff like that, and all the sort of press that's been getting basically. But still,
well, I think a lot of that is Fortnite is frankly just a lot more visually appealing to watch and has about 3% of the jank that PUBG does.
Yeah, exactly.
And you can play it on everything at a fairly decent lick, whereas PUBG on non-PC devices is still not the best thing in the world.
Last time I played it on PC, it wasn't the best thing in the world.
We probably ought to do that again at some point, Kev, See how much worse we have become at the game.
Oh, I forget you two are the part of the, PC master race and all that. But hey,
you're a man who can't work out how to install Discord on your PC, Tim. So
it's installed.
Tim, I'm not going to allow you to blather on for this.
Yes, let's go.
Points of interest, announcements, which means one-way talking, Tim. Kev, you're still allowed to join in. Right. Points of interest, announcement. LEGO DC Supervillains is coming on October 16th, 2018, in the same week that just about everything else seems to be arriving on the entertainment scene at the very moment. It's coming on PS4, Xbox One, PC, and Switch. So the Justice League has disappeared, says Warner Brothers, leaving Earth's protection to a newcomer group of heroes from a parallel universe, proclaiming themselves as the Justice Syndicate. Renowned DC supervillains from Legion of Doom discover Earth's newest heroes may not be who they claim to be. Yes, they've got yellow faces. They're all alcoholics. That's what it is. Or Lego people. I don't know which one. It is probably Lego. So that's a thing. Team Sonic Racing, one of the many things leaked by Walmart, is coming to PS4, Xbox One, PC, and Switch winter 2018, developed by the good folks at Sumo Digital, and it's going to have a 12-player online racing, so it's Mario Kart without the Mario. And there's even going to be an adventure mode. However that works, I don't know, in a track-based racing game. So that's if Mario Kart Deluxe 8 is no longer scratching your itch, or you don't have anything with a Nintendo logo on it, that's the one for you, I suppose.
FYI, Crash Team Racing had a really good adventure mode, single player, on PlayStation 1.
How did that work, the adventure mode in that?
It was like a sort of hub world that you drove around, and you could go into the different courses via the hub world, but there were also a bunch of little side things you could do in the hub world simultaneously. It was interesting. I don't want to say it was mold breaking or anything.
Or even good.
Apart from the fact that Team Sonic was leaked, they might have been trying to get out ahead of the fact, because it's heavily rumoured that the next Star Fox game is going to be a kind of Diddy Kong racing game type thing as well. So they might have wanted to get a head start in front of that news, which we'll probably hear about at E3, hopefully. But there you go.
Yeah, there we go. So do you want to hear something unsurprising in the world of rumours?
Hit me.
Absolutely. Hit me up.
Crackdown 3, you'll never guess what.
Cancelled.
It is never happening?
It's been delayed again.
Okay.
Yeah.
Still, right, my cancellation prediction still to come.
It was actually rumoured that it was cancelled, basically, but apparently that is not the case.
It was meant to be releasing around the time of the original Xbox One, wasn't it?
Yes. I think they hit major problems, and they haven't exactly said this, but I think they hit major problems when they couldn't do the always online thing, because I think they had designs that kind of heavily used that as part of the way the game worked, basically.
Yeah, they were using kind of cloud. The power of the cloud.
Power of the cloud.
Power of the cloud to do all the maths on how buildings fall apart in pretty manners, and if you weren't online, presumably it was just a big oblong falling on its side. And
there were rumours that the first viewings of this game, when it was supposed to come out last year or sometime, when people started seeing it, they were like, oh, this looks like last generation graphics, what the hell's going on? But the rumours are that it's been delayed again. This came off the back of pre-orders being cancelled by Amazon Spain, and that kind of fueled the fire that it might be completely cancelled. But apparently is just delayed until next year, or that's the rumour so far. Aaron Greenberg has said so far that the team continues to work hard on the game for all our fans, which is very...
They have got to do so much with this game to make it appealing to anyone.
It's never going to live up to the hype now.
I think they need to delay it to the next console, but there you go.
I'm just saying, like, just think about what, in the space between Crackdown 2 and Crackdown 3, we've had Just Cause 2 and Just Cause 3. And both of those did what Crackdown posits at a really, really decent level. They've got to out Just Cause at this point.
If you're really upset about this, Agents of Mayhem may scratch that itch and is dirt cheap at the moment. Coleman picked up a copy for myself and his for £3 each. Basically, which is a bit stupid. So,
that is a game that came out and no one cared.
Yeah, no one cared. I played the demo preview thing and thought it was quite fun. But hey, anyway.
Hey, there we go. But, you know, one of the great things about the modern video gaming industry, when you're not... Because we're now past the point of slapping the letters H and D on everything, is having crossovers. Everyone loves a crossover. We had Mario Rabbids. That is a great crossover game. And in Ubisoft wanting to cross over with Nintendo again, we've got Assassin's Creed Odyssey, right?
Well, this is just... should specify...
Have I got this wrong? Have I got this news story wrong?
Yes.
Ezio's going to throw his hat.
Marvellous.
Take over the nearest doctor.
Hey, he's got the same accent. No one will know. He's Ezio.
It's basically just Mario swan diving off buildings into hay carts. That's what's going on. We have to point out this is a leak, and this was leaked by a keyring, so it's not the most reliable information.
I don't know about you, Kev, but I get all of my important news off keyrings.
Yeah.
Well, there was a photo that was put up of a Spartan-looking helmet keyring with the Assassin's Creed Odyssey branding on it, basically. So, could be fake, look like it might be on the money, but it kind of adds more fuel to the fire that there were rumours about the next Assassin's Creed being set in Greece, and apparently along with this rumour was the fact that it'll be a 2019 release date. Again, we might hear more about this at E3.
Yeah.
So there you go.
It makes sense that they go to Greece. They had a pretty good thing with the Egypt mythology. Then why not go to Greece? Plus, God of War's not there anymore, is it? So might as well.
Also, the fact that it looked like a Spartan helmet, that could be quite cool. A Spartan assassin might be interesting.
Do you know what my absolute wish is?
What is your wish, Kev?
I really hope that this Assassin's Creed game's like based in Greece, where there's possibly some mythological stuff going on. Like, he gets there, and you realise that, all the gods are dead, by the way. This random wanker with ashes all over us.
Killed them all.
he wrecked everyone. Like, the whole place is flooded. He's sodded off to Norway. And you're just there in the aftermath.
That would be quite cool, mixing the worlds, but still.
There we go. So that's apparently coming out in 2019. So there we go. That's the thing. And updates. Games for June's PlayStation Plus have been announced, and for PS4 you're getting XCOM 2, that's some good times, and Transfusion, which is some good times interspersed with throwing a controller out of a window. And the PS3 offering, while it's still there, is Zombie Driver HD and Ghost Recon Future Soldier.
I have to say, calling XCOM 2 a good time is very dependent on the person.
Well, I bought the game on PC, which, as you two know, is very rare for me, but I was that excited about it, and they hadn't announced that it was coming to consoles, and then I didn't play as much of it as I would like, even though I really like the game. So the fact that it's coming out on consoles for free, I'm very happy about, so that's good.
Did you just get confused?
No.
You were like, why isn't this loading on my PS4? Why? Don't understand it.
Does it have the expansion at all?
I think the consoles did launch, so I think. I could be wrong.
I don't know, because that expansion was massive and awesome.
I would imagine probably not.
It would make sense to give away the base game if they got the expansion to sell, but I thought the console versions came out significantly long afterwards, that it might be part of it, basically. I'm not sure. I will report back on that one.
I don't slum it on consoles, mate.
No, neither do I. I tried to play Destiny 2 on the PS4 yesterday.
Oh, that must have been unfortunate.
Oh, 30 frames a second makes my brain sad.
You just wait until we get into the next generation of bitcoins are still a thing and graphics cards cost £1 billion each, that you might have to come over to consoles anyway.
No. Well, that's collapsed, mate, because modern graphics cards and kind of follow the kind of the I've forgotten Moore's Law. There we go, Moore's Law. If you follow Moore's Law, it's unlikely that consumer-grade graphics cards are going to be able to keep up with the increasing complexity of bitcoins and other cryptocurrencies, probably protecting the next generation of PC GPUs against ridiculous price gouging that happened in this generation.
That is good news for you guys.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is.
We've also got really good graphics cards that we won't have to replace for another few years anyway.
Exactly. So life is good. So anyway, with that said, and keeping an eye on the clock because Tim's got stuff to talk about, which means we could be here forever. What we done played? I'm going to go first. This is going to be quick.
I really want to hear about the first one, particularly.
And then we're going to Kev, and then we're going to Tim. Alrighty. So I picked up Street Fighter 30th Anniversary Collection on the Switch.
I'm very keen to hear about this.
Yeah, which is it's a collection of 12 Street Fighter games spanning the past 30 years. It's somewhat depressing to think that the Street Fighter franchise is 30 years old. All the way from the original Street Fighter, which, dear God, plays like an absolute dog.
Yes, I've heard this.
I can now confirm that it does. So the Anniversary Collection of Street Fighter is actually kind of pretty much a direct port of the original arcade ROMs with one or two little tweaks here and there. And it's kind of like, think back to the days of the Super Nintendo version of Street Fighter 2, and you wish you could have the full-on version of the arcade cabinet at home. And this is, kind of finally makes that a reality. So it's completely arcade-perfect ports of the original Street Fighter 2, Street Fighter 2 Champion Edition, Street Fighter 2 Turbo, Super Street Fighter 2, Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo, Street Fighter 3, Street Fighter 3 First Strike, and then Street Fighter Alpha, or Zero, however you want to describe it, 1, 2, and 3. So there is some good stuff here to be had, and it's all wrapped up in a very nice package with kind of like a museum mode as well, which gives you kind of the history behind the development of all of the Street Fighter games, which is a really interesting read, actually.
I have a question.
Yes.
So you've got Super 2 Turbo, and you've got Third Strike. What's the point in the other 10?
Being a completionist.
But it's also nice to just go through the history of them, though. Like, see how they developed from one game to the next. And
I guess, yeah, from a historical standpoint.
Yeah, well, I mean, I can kind of... because I think a lot of people's memories of the... certainly the ones I actually give a crap about are the various flavours of Street Fighter 2, because that's kind of... When I was growing up, all of those versions came out, and it's quite interesting to play through them again and get the feels about the good times that was had.
I never played the original Street Fighter 2.
Didn't you?
I came in on Championship Edition when the 4 bosses got added to it.
Yeah, you didn't miss much, mate. It was, yeah. I mean, it's a great little package of titles, and like the museum mode's got like kind of concept art, which was really bad back in the day. And Blanca's character could have taken a very, very not politically right direction. Which is even more so than it is already. And it's to the degree where I'm not really that comfortable going on about it on the podcast.
Right.
I'm not gonna lie.
Fair enough.
Blanca was the first ever character that I ever used in the original Street Fighter 2 as well, but hey. But I have a question, Mr. Dan. Like, I think you kind of almost answered this already, but I think you're in the same category as me. I didn't play very much of Street Fighter 3, like, at all when it came out. I played it here and there over the years, but not really to the extent that I've played Street Fighter 2. But I've heard, like, that, like, a lot of the purists really like the kind of parry system and stuff like that. Is that something where you've played around with it much? And like, because I'm actually... As much as I got the nostalgia for Street Fighter 2, I'm actually more interested to play a good chunk of Street Fighter 3 and to see the differences and the other characters and stuff that I've now seen subsequently in like Street Fighter 4 and 5, and going back to the kind of origins of them, basically.
I mean, I'll be honest with you, I've kind of really concentrated on Street Fighter 2 and Alpha.
Well, that's the problem when you've got 12 games as well.
Yeah, it is a bit. Yeah, so I mean, that's kind of where I've been spending my time, so I can't really comment on that yet. I'll put up my list of things to look at for next week. But they have also added in online play for 4 of the 12 games, which I think is essentially the last iteration of each of them. So I think it's... I think there's Street Fighter 2 Turbo, Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo, the last alpha and I think third strike.
But it makes sense not to
3.
have online for all of them. Otherwise, you'd be dividing your online player base so much that there'd be no one to play any of them, basically.
Well, the main reason why there's probably like to be no one to play is because the netcode is a bunch of garbage.
Yeah, I've heard that's not good. Hopefully that's something that gets upgraded or done as it goes. I also heard that the Switch version had something like one less game or something, but had a different mode, a tournament mode or something, was it?
Okay, so if you pre-ordered it on Xbox One, PS4 or PC, those are all platforms which had Ultra Street Fighter 4 release, so you got that added in as a pre-order bonus. And obviously, since that isn't available on the Switch, yeah, they couldn't give it to you. But what it does have is it's a very niche mode from, I think it was Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo, where if you had an arcade that had 4 cabinets, they could be set up in a tournament fight configuration, which is like a hot seat. You move between the systems, and then it's kind of like essentially a very glorified version of Winner Stays On, pretty much. But yeah, so there is that functionality there. And of course, there is something that sounds on the surface very cool about the Switch version, which is, a kind of full-fat Street Fighter 2 on the go, which is kind of true. The only reason why I say it's kind of true is that...
No D-pad?
Yeah, that, a little bit. I mean, I think we all remember back in the day getting Nintendo Thumb, courtesy of trying to pull off a bloody Dragon Punch, which was impossible. For the first time in about 20 years, I've had a blister on my left thumb.
Screw the Dragon Punch, it was the whirlwind bloody pile driver that Zangief did. That was the pain.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, and even the Switch Pro controller, the D-pad on that isn't great. It feels really weird because the Nintendo D-pad used to be the gold standard of awesome.
Yeah, I don't know why, because haven't they got the license for, like, the best style of D-pad, but they seem to have forgotten it or something?
Well, no, they did have they did have the patent for it, but it expired. That's why the 360 D-pad was so god-awful for a while, because they couldn't use the same design on the Nintendo patent, which was a pretty wide-reaching patent. So there we go. Fun legal fact for you that was neither fun or arguably possibly not a fact.
But yeah, this is why apparently I heard someone else complaining about the Pro controller on the way home on Twitter, and I kind of recommended the pad that I think you've already got, Dan, which is the 8-bit Do SF30, and I think that will be good for it, basically.
That's exactly. I actually blew the dust off that today. I've got the NES 30 Pro, so that's not the latest version. There is a more Super Nintendo-esque version out, which has got rumble and a gyroscope in it as well. But yeah, so all of the 8-bit Do controls you can use on a Switch. You just update the firmware, make sure you're using the latest version of firmware, just pair it to your Switch like you would a Bluetooth controller, and that is so totally the best way to play it. I was struggling getting past the second fight in Street Fighter 2, and as soon as I started using this, bosh, all the way through to the bosses. So, yeah, an 8-bit Do, they really care about the products that they produce. So, and I think you can get the SNES 30 Pro on Amazon for about 35 quid.
Yeah, it's not that expensive. So,
and it can connect to just about everything. It'll connect to an Android phone. It'll connect to your Switch. It'll connect to your PC. So
also, other retailers that do pay their taxes are also available. But anyway,
yes, yeah. And also, one of the great things about it is that it also work with a Raspberry Pi if you have got an emulator going on your Raspberry Pi. So yeah, they're really lovely little controllers. Little is the operative word. But yeah, no. So that's what I would recommend. So yeah, but if you're a Street Fighter aficionado and look back in a misty-eyed way because you've now got cataracts at Street Fighter 2, it's worth the price of admission for that alone.
I have a really random question.
Yeah, go for it, mate.
When Street Fighter 3 Third Strike Remaster, or whatever it was, came out a few years back, I think it was Iron Galaxy that developed it, and they went out of their way to put in a little mode. I hesitate to call it a mode. It's really just a little simulator to try and reproduce Evo Moment 37. Is that in this one, or have you not seen it?
Not that I've seen.
Okay.
Sorry, buddy.
Oh,
it's cool. If you don't know what Evo Moment 37 is, just look it up on YouTube, because it's like the defining Street Fighter moment.
Nice.
Yeah, so, yeah, So it's available pretty much on everything you could ever think of, and you should go and buy it. And the other thing I played, which you can just get to play on Game Pass if it so tickles your fancy or shivers your timbers, is there's been the first major title update to Sea of Thieves. There's still not much of a game in there, but I have put a little bit of a game in there. It's called The Hungering Deep, where there is a new kind of series of puzzles for you to solve, which culminates in a big boss fight, which needs more than one galleon's worth of friendly players to complete. So for the first time in Sea of Thieves, actually forcing crews of pirates to work together. And Jamie and I, the site's Smash Soul, as he likes to go by as well, we actually teamed up with a bunch of randoms on Sea of Thieves, and it was genuinely brilliant the way you had to the way you had to kind of work together. One of the items that you get as part of this expansion is essentially a big trumpet horn that you speak into, so you can project your voice at other boats, and just trying to coordinate with a bunch of people who are just complete randoms that you've met and trying to do something together and having to pool all your resources. It was a really fun couple of hours, but it is only a couple of hours. The Hungering Deep is it's just a small, self-contained little set of missions. The cynical bit of me says the reason why it took so long is that I think they purposefully picked a couple of islands on every corner of the map, so you spent bloody ever sailing to make it feel longer than it actually is. But you do get like unique items for completing the Hungering Deep, which will only be available for a limited time.
It sounds like they could do with several of those type of things in the game.
Well, that's their plan. Apparently, they're going to be like doing kind of weekly missions and challenges and stuff. It's still got a long way to go. It's one of those games which, in essence, is brilliant. It's a great way to pass, a couple of hours with your mates, just shooting while you're shooting. But a all-consuming, satisfying time sink it is not. But it is still fun, and visually it's just gorgeous. So there we go. So if you've already got Sea of Thieves, you have new things to do in it, so go and do them. Kev.
Hello.
You're a man.
I am.
Who has played nothing but Dark Souls for the past 11 million years.
That is 100% accurate.
I know, right? And you've picked up another Dark Souls game, and this is Dark Souls Remastered, and you're playing this on PC, right?
I am, yeah.
I have a question already.
Okay.
Why did you buy this and not just get some of the aftermarket mods for the original Dark Souls, which arguably do as good a job with up-resing it and sorting out all the bugs?
2 reasons. Number 1 is I just apparently love throwing money at From Software.
Yeah, you love them and their games.
A good, honest answer. I like it.
Yeah. Number 2 is the remastered version is the only way to get as many players in the co-op and invasion mechanics as you can do now. There's no mod in the original game to get like 6 players in game at one time, whereas remastered does that by default on every version of the game, not just on PC. And the reason I got it on PC, it wasn't even a PC first thing for me. It was just the fact that if you own Dark Souls on Steam already, then you get 50% discount on remastered. Whereas that obviously doesn't happen. You have to pay full price on PS4 and Xbox One. So, yeah, I went for the cheap option. It's more Dark Souls. They've increased up to 1080p, potentially up to 4K on PC. It runs at 60 frames a second, smooth throughout the entire game. Blighttown no longer chugs. What else is there? Oh, there's the co-op thing, so you can get up to 6 players in a game now. So I think that's 4 players in co-op and 2 invaders at any one given time.
I have a question.
Yep.
Is there any actual sort of game content added, or is it everything just polished up to the nth degree sort of thing?
No, it's literally just a cut and paste of the original game, but they've made sure that it looks nice. I hesitate to say it's worth buying unless you're deep into Dark Souls like I am. It's not really worth a purchase. You can get the original version for far cheaper. And if you're happy with 30 frames on consoles, or if you're happy with less co-op players in the game at any given time,
then it doesn't matter so
get it on
much.
PC. Yeah. So the one thing I am loving about it is that it's refreshed the community to some extent. So there's a lot of invasions going on. There's a lot of co-op going on. You can drop a summon sign at any boss, and there'll be 8,000 queues waiting to go. So it's really fun. One thing I know Jamie is Smash Soul's also been playing a lot of it as well on Xbox, and the one thing we've been going back and forth, and Yoshi Fett as well has also been playing a lot. And the one thing we've all been talking about is just how much we're enjoying just jumping into co-op It's like it's not something you have to wait for anymore because the whole community's playing at the moment, and they're all in various stages of the game. They're replaying it over and over. So yeah, virtually anywhere you want to drop a summon sign, you get summoned, and you have a good time playing co-op with randoms in it at the moment. It's cool.
I have another question. Mm-hmm. Will you also be buying the Switch version when that eventually comes out?
I don't have a Switch, but I'm slowly getting more. I gotta say, like, why wouldn't I buy arguably my favourite game of all time on a handheld console that I can take anywhere with me?
Mate, because you know you're going to get frustrated at it and throw it.
No, he knows that game inside out. He doesn't get frustrated anymore, surely.
Dark Souls has a chilling effect on me for the most part. It's like going home to your childhood home.
Where you were beaten regularly and locked in the basement.
You look at a Twitch clip. I put a clip on Twitter yesterday, so check out my Twitter feed for this, or go to my Twitch archive at kev_BRB. But I made a clip of one of yesterday's parts where I was getting really sick of fighting one of the major bosses in the game called Nito. And he kept killing me. I was saying, like, I've always had a problem with this guy. He's an absolute pain in the arse. He's never been easy for me. Everyone has their one boss that they have an issue with. This is mine. And after about 7 or 8 runs to him and failing miserably, I was like, right, I'm going to summon a bunch of people to help me. So I got a 3-man team together and we went in and I was like, right, finally, let's do this. I dropped into the boss arena and his first attack was this blade that came out of the ground before I'd even got out of my fall animation. And he killed me instantly. And then the next guy landed on my corpse and he killed him instantly as well.
Oh, what? Okay, that sounds a bit hardcore.
But you have a good time with it. Is it? I mean, how much does it come in at, Kev?
So that's a full price game. That's 40 quid.
Worth 40 quid?
I hesitate to say yes, simply because I don't know anyone that loves Dark Souls and is still playing it that wouldn't just go back and play the original version at this point. I don't know. On PC, you get 50% off. I'd say that's definitely worth it. On consoles, if you really can't live without a remastered version of Dark Souls, by all means, grab it. But I'd suggest waiting until it comes down in price.
Fair enough.
I would be surprised if it goes onto PS Plus or something at some point.
Yeah, sounds like the kind of thing that would. Yeah, well, all right, cool. Well, if you like smacking your head repeatedly against a brick wall, or like a 80-foot ogre to do that for you.
Yeah, that's my jam.
There you go. Right, Tim.
Yes.
I'm taking executive action. You have 2 games to speak about here. One of them is a demo, so you're not going to speak about that.
No, I'm going to talk about that quickly though, because that is interesting. No, just listen. I will get through this fairly quickly. Sushi Striker: The Way of Shishuda came out as a demo. It's a quick-to-play puzzle game. It's kind of got a very kind of elaborate animation and kind of style, almost in the line with the kind of Pokemon cartoon type thing. The whole setup is basically that sushi has disappeared from the world, and the kids that you're playing as never heard of sushi before, and sushi is this like kind of magical food that isn't really available to them.
I'm struggling to give a already, but carry on.
Well, okay, they meet these sushi sprite type things, which are creatures that kind of help them in the game, but the basic gameplay is a kind of puzzle-based game. Kind of interesting just because it's the first game I've played on Switch, at least, where I want to kind of take the Joy-Cons off to play. Like, you can play it with just an analog controller and buttons and stuff, but it seems much better if you're playing it with your finger and swiping it, to the point where it seems like a game that's going to be suitable for mobiles. But it's quite a fun little enjoyable puzzle game. It's kind of got like multiple tracks of sushi swinging to and fro across the screen, and you're kind of swiping and connecting the ones that are on similar plates to build up combos to then throw those plates at your opponent that's on the other side of the screen. Worth having a look at the demo, seeing that it's coming out later this year. It's definitely interesting and fun. I'm not sure how much I definitely like it, but it's definitely worth having a look at anyway.
What are the menus like, though? That's the question.
Don't bloody encourage him.
The game that I do want to spend a bit more time talking about this week, even though I haven't played that much of it, but is Detroit Become Human. Obviously kind of a big release for this week as well, but I've only played the first few hours at the moment.
You don't need to review them in real time, Tim.
No, that's fine. I'll preface this with the fact that I am a massive fan of most of David Cage's games.
Oh, the polar opposite to me.
I know, and having you on, Kev, is a particular counterpoint to mine, but I absolutely loved Heavy Rain. I think it was my game of the year it came out. Really, really enjoyed it.
I have a question.
Yes?
Do you find it constantly amazing that David Cage can extract himself from his own arsehole, which he is so deep in, his head is practically poking out from between his own tonsils, to write a subpar script for yet another game that has a ham-fisted take on cultural issues related to identity? Discuss.
Right, it's one of those things where he gets a lot of criticism for it, almost exactly that, as you say, but I don't necessarily think that's entirely fair, and it's not even entirely a blame that you can lay at David Cage's door. He is the kind of overall arcing director of the game. I wouldn't necessarily say that he's got a hand on writing every single piece of the script.
Oh, you and I are going to disagree there.
Yeah, but isn't it everything I've heard about this game? Initially I was like, oh yeah, that's quite cool. And I was like, oh, it sounds a bit like that Channel 4 series, Humans. Oh wait, oh yeah, that wasn't that good. Oh wait, oh yeah, it's completely pretentious, this game.
Right, it is a bit, and I would say that if you didn't enjoy Heavy Rain or Fahrenheit, which are the two games that I particularly enjoyed beforehand, then you're probably not going to enjoy this. And this is more like dialing back to the Heavy Rain kind of format of having multiple characters. The characters can die if you don't perform well within the game, and like you say, it does have a bit of a social commentary, and I haven't got too deep in the game to know exactly how that plays out, so I won't get too deep into the argument of that of this time anyway. We'll come back to that at a future stage. But for me, I wasn't that keen on Beyond Two Souls. I didn't think it was as good a game. I enjoyed elements of it mainly because I played it in co-op, and I think that's where that game was actually better, when you were sort of disconnected from the other spiritual kind of side of it. Anyway, but for me, this is something that really ticks a few boxes in the fact that it has gone back to more like the Heavy Rain formula. It's also got the kind of police procedural stuff in it, which the demo kind of showed off, and that's how the game opens, with the whole kind of going through and trying to stop a deviant android who's kind of gone off the rails and taken a hostage, and you're trying to stop him from...
I have a question. Can I press X to Jason?
There's no pressing X to Jason. There is press X to sadness, which I've seen people putting up pictures of and stuff like that. But look, as I said, if you didn't like that form, you're not going to like this. But I would say if you didn't like Beyond Two Souls and that's putting you off, then if you still liked Heavy Rain, then that formula is more exactly what you're doing this. And you can tell that they've even learnt some lessons from how that worked and how that was received, and kind of streamlined a few things. There is a bit of the washing up. You are doing like some mundane tasks as one of the... For anyone that doesn't know, there's 3 different characters in the game. One of them is Kara, who is a kind of looking after a child and is being owned by someone that turns out to be a kind of violent individual that's been violent possibly to their child, but definitely to the android that you are, basically. But Kara was based on the kind of demo that this game kind of span out of, that was originally a tech demo for the PS4, I think, basically.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Is there slightly pervily done, completely unnecessary breasts in the game?
I have not seen any yet. Apparently there is no shower scene, gratuitous shower scene, as there have been. There does seem like some of the things that David Cage has been heavily criticised before in the past, he has definitely deliberately avoided in this one. Whether that's the case or not, I will say. But...
I don't know. He made a very similar game to Heavy Rain.
But yeah, but I personally loved Heavy Rain, and that's one of his most commercially successful games, and critically acclaimed games. Although there was slightly divisive, and some people like yourself, Kev, didn't like it.
Critically acclaimed?
Yeah, most, as I said, it was slightly divisive, and you can go and check some of the things. But I would imagine that Heavy Rain is his highest rated game out of the games he's made, possibly Fahrenheit being better on a Metacritic kind of rating.
78 on PS4, 87 on PS3. That's not bad. That's officially not bad.
Yeah, that's officially pretty good. And as I said, I hold it in particularly high regard, and I know a lot of other people do. And I think it's very much following that same formula, just with a more of a kind of sci-fi theme than the kind of detective noir thing. But it kind of spins out from the detective character in Heavy Rain that had the kind of... abilities and stuff that he had. I can't remember what they called it, but the kind of the tech abilities where you could go into your mind palace, as they called it in that, and they actually refer to that in this as well, basically.
Cephalorhectoscope.
Okay, but the thing I think is a really interesting addition to the gameplay, and especially to the desire to want to play through the game multiple times, is at the end of every level they show you the flowchart of how your actions cut off other paths and what you discovered in the level, And you can also then look at the percentages of other people that did the same and the percentages of your friends that did similar as well. So it'll tell you, you know, which decisions you made and which path that led you on, and kind of, it won't necessarily show you exactly the decisions you didn't make, but it'll show you that paths were closed off by you not making that decision. For example, the scenario you saw in the demo with the hostage taking has, I think, 6 possible outcomes of where it can end up based on how the decisions that you make on the course and through the level. And I thought that was interesting, principally because when I interviewed David Cage for Heavy Rain, he actually specified that he didn't want people to play the game multiple times. He wanted you to play through Heavy Rain and that be your version of the story, basically.
I have a question then. What do the achievements say? Do you get can you get every achievement in one playthrough?
I would not imagine so, but that's
I bet you can't.
That's the case with a lot of games, though, no? I mean...
Yeah, but most games don't have the developer saying, I only want you to play it once.
Okay, fine. But then if you're an achievement hunter, and that is how you get your kicks out of games...
You're doing it wrong by playing it on PlayStation because they don't have achievements.
Well, yeah, no, but in general, like... That's something where that's never influenced my gameplay. That's never influenced how I play my games. I've never gone, I am going to play this game for longer than I desire to want to play this game because of an achievement system. I've never ruined my gameplay by doing that, basically. And if you do, then all power to you. If that's how you get your kicks, fine. But I've never done that. So I didn't care about that in Heavy Rain, and I don't care about that now, particularly. But I do find it interesting, the fact that they've got that flowchart there that, as I said, does encourage you to play through multiple times and to find all the different outcomes, or not necessarily to play through it enough times to get those different outcomes, but just to play through it a couple of times to see how the different decisions you make can influence how that plays out, basically. But yeah, as I said, I'm definitely a fan of this game, but I'm very intrigued by what we were playing. Also, I'll mention that Coleman and I were kind of playing at the same time, and I believe he's been capturing some footage. You may have noticed if you've been watching our podcast, and I will now be able to say watching our podcast on YouTube, that basically now Coleman has been putting up some gameplay footage that he's been capturing of the games we've been talking about this week. And it's actually his footage rather than mine that you'll be seeing, and he made some different decisions to me, but we were both playing at the same time. It was actually interesting. We were literally discussing as we play through, oh, you did that. Oh, did that work for you? What were you doing there? And all that type of stuff. And yeah, it's one of those games I think is very interesting to actually discuss with someone else after you've played it as well, just to see how things played out and how things go. But I'm really interested to not just play it through for the first time, but also go through and play it again as well. So yeah, I think I'm hooked at the moment.
How long does a playthrough take, roughly?
As I said, I've only played the first few hours, so I don't know at the moment, basically.
I think Heavy Rain was about 6 or 7, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it was more like 8 to 10, I would say, and I think this is a similar sort of length from what I've heard. As I said, I'm keen to play through it, not just the once, but play through it again, and I'm quite liking the kind of the story beats they're setting up. I've just got to my first proper crime scene, and playing through that crime scene of a murder, basically, that's the first kind of crime scene bit that I've got to that wasn't the original opening demo of the game that I'd already kind of played, and that's my more favoured part of the style of the gameplay, basically. So that's the bit I'm most interested to play through. But yeah, I'm definitely, it's definitely got its hooks in me so far, and I'm keen to play some more. So yeah, it looks good so far.
Do you remember when we went to our first, it was the first Eurogamer Expo, and Heavy Rain was being heavily demoed, and David Cage did a talk there, and by the end of it, we were all swept up in the storm of, I really can't, if you go back and listen to that podcast that we recorded in that room, like, we're really looking forward to see what Heavy Rain really is, because David Cage, good lord, did he sell something. I'm glad to see that one of us is still being sold on that stuff.
Well, I mean, it's one of those things where I think that kind of the concept of it is a really interesting one, but I think I think David Cage needs to have a bit of a harsh dose of reality and perhaps realise he's not the guy to be the narrative director for such a project, for it to have its full impact.
I think that's slightly unfair for you to say when you haven't played through it. I have seen some people saying similar things to you, but most often,
but I have played David Cage games before, and from what I've heard, I've played Heavy Rain through to completion. I played a bit of Beyond Two Souls. I didn't complete it, I will admit, but from what I've heard, it's kind of the storytelling shtick, as it were, doesn't seem that different than before. And whilst I think David Cage is an excellent person to kind of come up with these concepts and these ideas, a good writer and a writer with a deft hand in teasing out kind of nuances out of kind of certain societal commentaries, that's not his strength, and I really think he needs to get over himself and let someone else take the reins.
I mean, I look, as I said, I've seen some people saying similar things. Most of the people making those comments are people that haven't played the game and are basing those comments on small snippets they've seen of clues or just seeing screenshots and stuff like that. Most of the people that I've seen that have actually played through and completed the game, and, you know, this is a small social bubble, so maybe that's just the case. But most of the people I've seen playing the game to completion are quite pleased with it and generally like the game as a whole, basically. So, as I said, I will, again, report back when I've played through it a bit more, basically.
All right,
one I
so
intend to complete. So there you go.
Well, we are running very long, so we need to absolutely disappear because poor old Coleman, the poor little sausage, has to edit this behemoth. So Tuesday's a Tuesday, Tim. Talk to me about Tuesdays.
Tuesday is indeed a Tuesday, and this Tuesday we have a very special event. It's on the 5th of June, and if you join us, you can possibly win a copy of the game, as we do every Tuesday. But we also have another extra thing going on. This is a game called Clask. It's almost like a miniature version of air hockey. If you can imagine like a small air hockey table that you have, but instead you kind of play it on top of the tabletop, and you have a kind of magnet either side of the table. So you have it above and below the table, and it's a miniature table that you're playing on, and you move a little kind of almost like a puck type thing that's on top of the thing, but it's got a how to describe it? It's kind of a tall kind of stand type thing. Anyway, but you're moving that around with a magnet from the bottom of underneath the table, and you're basically trying to flick a ball back and forth between like the two opposing players, and you're trying to get that in the hole behind the other player. But if you get your stick puck thing lodged in there as well, that also scores a point to your opponent. There's also some other magnets that are scattered originally in the middle of the board that tend to get moved round, and if 2 out of the 3 of those stick to your stick thing, then you also, lose points as well. But yeah, it's a really fun kind of, maybe not describing it the best, but it's a really fun kind of simple to play party game. We've also got a actual tournament going on in the evening as well, so you can take part in the tournament. There'll be extra prizes for that. As I said, there's also, you can just come along, play a copy of the game, and win a copy of the game just by trying it out in the evening. But we'll have extra prizes for the tournament as well. Little game called Clask. There are more details on the top left-hand corner of Big Red Barrel, or you can come along, join the 1,600 people in our Meetup group, and search for Tabletop Tuesday on Meetup and get some details there.
Well, you should bloody well do that, otherwise you're an idiot.
Or just come to the loading bar in Dalston on Tuesday. That's
well, do that. You could also do that. That's probably quite a simple thing to do.
No shout-outs this week because I forgot to form them, and we'll get them all in one go for next week. But there you go.
Yeah, so there'll be all of the shout-outs. There'll be shoutings, outings, and poutings. Right, no, I was trying something that alliterated. Okay, so that's pretty much it, I think. I need to decide how I'm going to give away a copy of Destiny 2 on PC.
Do that.
Kev, you may have a copy you need to give away as well.
I do, actually, if someone wants it. I just assume no one would at this point.
I'm quite tempted to force Coleman to run it on his PC, his laptop, which he claims can't run it, but I think it can, because Destiny 2 can run on a potato.
Yeah, it's not a workhorse of a game, is it?
No.
I mean, it looks great, don't get me wrong, it looks fantastic, but it's not one of those games that requires a hell of a lot of system hogging.
Yeah, so if you've got any ideas about how you might want to convince me to give you a copy of Destiny 2, just let us know. Hell, I'll even log on to the forums and look if that's what you want to do. That's how desperately I want to get this thing out of my hands. So, there we go. So that's pretty much a show, I think. Just checking. Yeah, it is. That was a show. I've just checked. Thank you for listening. Once again, we really do appreciate it. And make sure you head to www.bigredbarrel.com or internet/biz.com.co.uk/bigredbarrel or anything else on the internet. Just put /bigredbarrel after it. I haven't heard of any good fun examples recently, so please do let me know. Now, so anyway, I have been Dan.
I might have been Tim.
I've been Kev.
Yeah, I have. And is there another episode of VRB in the works, chaps?
Well, the first episode of VRB in the works, essentially. The last one was just a pilot. So, you know.
So where can people find that?
We don't know yet, Dan. But I'll be reporting on that next week. We'll be
On
recording an episode.
BigRedBarrel.com.
Yeah. It'll be on BigRedBarrel.com. That's the best place to find it.
It will be on a feed somewhere. So
or BRB TV as well. But hey,
yeah. So get your listening chops around that. So that's it for this show. So we'll see you next episode as we inch ever closer to episode 300. And until next time, dear listeners, toodle bye.
Your ears are quite welcome
for the podcasting goodness that you just heard.
Why not roll on over
to BigRedBarrel.com
for more podcasts,
news, reviews, and videos from the biggest, reddest site on the internet, BigRedBarrel.com.
Hey, do you know who was there?
Who?
MC Scrubble Double! The Scrubbler Doubler was getting his blops on.
that's how you got an invite, Dan.
Dan's got the exclusives.